Hello and welcome to the Masai Mara, where we are about to take you on a live safari to see some of the most spectacular wildlife that Africa has to offer. A very warm welcome to the kids watching on Nat Geo Kids. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon Manu is on camera with me, and we are really excited to share this live safari with all of you. For our regular viewers, in an hour or so, the safari will continue as normal, which means that you can send through your questions in the normal ways. For parents watching with your kids, or for kids, you can actually ask your parents to send through your questions, and you can do that. They can email them through to natgeokids@wildearth.tv. So remember, because this is live, that means that you can actually get your questions answered as we continue on along the way. And we won't just be showing you the animals here in Kenya. We will also be joined by somebody in South Africa by the name of James, and he will be keeping you all thoroughly entertained as well. So, a lot of the animals that you might see here are very similar to the animals that you will see in South Africa. We get a giraffe out here, we get lots of elephants and birds and lions, but James has got something very special to show you that you don't see every day.
Hello everybody, and welcome to this National Geographic Kids special show, this time from the Western Kruger National Park of South Africa. That is a very special little bird over there, and it is a blacksmith lapwing, but it's only about 10 days old. Can you believe it? Its parents are the ones that you can hear going choop, choop, choop. There they are. It's mum and dad, and his name, or her name, we're not sure which, is Scoobert. And Scoobert has done very well to get to 10 days old. When they are 40 days old, they're able to fly, and until they're 40 days old, they're very vulnerable, which means that any of the predators that come past here could get hold of little Scoobert, and his big defense is to hide. He's very good at hiding. He's very camouflaged in the dirt. Now remember to ask some questions through your parents. You can tell your parents to use the email address natgeokids@wildearth.tv. That's natgeokids@wildearth.tv, and you can ask us anything you'd like to about the wonderful creatures and landscapes that you'll see today. Now, a lot of our regular viewers are very happy to be seeing Scoobert, the little blacksmith lapwing. He's a real favourite of ours. My name is James, and on camera today we have got Senzo Mkhize. Senzo Mkhize is from KwaZulu-Natal, which is another beautiful part of South Africa, and today he is sporting what is known as a side bun. Never mind about that, it's an odd sort of hair accoutrement that he's got. We won't talk about it again for the duration of this show. Let's go back to Scoobert over there. And we still see old Scoobert. I can't see him. I think he's still down towards the water's edge. He'll be looking for little insects to eat, perhaps a few snails, and maybe caterpillars. There he comes. He's coming back up. Now, this special bird is able to run straight away. As soon as he's born, out of his egg, he's able to run, as soon as he hatches. And look how big his legs are for a 10-day-old bird, and his feet, if you look carefully at his feet, are the same size as his parents. So even though he's only 10 days old, his little feet are almost the same size as his mum and his dad's. I think that's amazing. What a special little bird. He's like a dirty blob of cotton wool on a couple of thin sticks. But he's very fast at running, and he's very good at hiding. 40 days, I say, until he can fly, so he's probably got another 30 or so to go. Now, one of the things that might eat Scoobert and he'll have to be very careful. Lorraine, you say he needs to have security for 30 days. He does need to have security for 30 days. And one of the things that might try and eat him is the following. Let me show it to you. Oh, in fact, there are two things looking this way. I don't think they'll come here because normally they'll eat other things. But if you look over there, we've got two birds of prey. And that means that they're birds that hunt. They are called Wahlberg's eagles. And this pair of Wahlberg's eagles has a very interesting story. The one at the top we think is the female. Now they come back to the same nest every single year. And that Wahlberg's eagle, the pale form Wahlberg's eagle, came back last year and the year after and the year before that and the year before that to the same nest with a different partner from the one that she came back with today. There he is, and we don't know what happened to her original husband, because normally they don't change. So maybe during the long migration that they had to make from the middle parts of Africa, just south of the Sahara, maybe her husband met an accident. We don't really know for sure, but what we do know is this year she came back on her own with a new husband. Isn't that interesting? I think it's fascinating. Anyway, they've come back to the same nest, same area, and we'll see what happens over the course of this year. In the meantime, we're going to move on down towards the south of this reserve and see if we can't find ourselves a leopard. That would be very nice to show you. In the meantime, let's go back to Jamie and the Mara.
Now, James has been showing you some of the different species of birds that we get out here in the African wilderness. Now, just have a look at this giraffe and see how many birds you can count all along its back and along its neck. Now, this is a bird that's different from the tiny baby lapwing and different to the Wahlberg's eagles. This is a bird known as an oxpecker, and there are probably about 8 or so on the back of this giraffe. Now, what they are doing is acting as the giraffe's cleanup crew. So you can see how that one on the bottom of its neck is balanced there, using its claws to grip onto its fur, and then stiff tail feathers to prop it up. Now, what it's searching for is ectoparasites, things like ticks, maybe mites, anything like that it can eat. Now, it's not doing it necessarily to help the giraffe out. It's actually doing that because that is what it feeds on. But it helps the giraffe get rid of some of those pesky, itchy parasites that are living on its skin. So in a way, those birds are really helpful to this giraffe. Sometimes, though, they can be a bit of a pest. So if the giraffe has any kind of injury, or perhaps a heavy wax build-up in its ear, or anything like that, maybe patches of raw skin, then the birds will actually peck at the giraffe's injuries and they'll stop it from healing. Because just in the same way that they feed on ticks, they also feed on blood and mucus as well. Isn't this giraffe beautiful? She doesn't have any injuries. A beautifully elegant animal, staring out from her position with her head up high, looking around to see if there are any potential threats before moving along to see. Oh, look, she spotted something, and so has Manu. How cool is this? We've been looking at the tallest land mammal. Now let's look at the tallest bird. This is a female ostrich, the biggest bird in the entire world. And they're so big that they actually cannot even fly. So as she walks along, they have adapted in a completely different way, sort of similar to the little lapwings. The lapwings can fly, but they spend a lot of time on the ground, running backwards and forwards. Ostriches can't fly, but they also can run very, very fast. And if you look at her legs, you can see she's got powerful muscles around her thighs that help her to run as fast as she needs to make up for the fact that she can't fly away from potential threats. And there's lots of potential danger out here for a female ostrich like this. Something like a lion or a cheetah or even a leopard might decide that an ostrich is on their menu. So that was a fantastic find. That's what the giraffe were looking at as she walks along past them. I saw some more ostriches off in the distance, so we'll probably go and sit with them for a little bit as well. Now the giraffe is leaning down to feed on the leaves of that bush. Oh, there's so much to see here. There's a warthog as well. It's a sort of an African species of pig. This is why I've come to this particular part of the Masai Mara, because it's very, very swampy. There's lots of water around and mud, and it means that the grass is very bright green and very nutritious for the animals. So this is where they come. And that's why I brought you here, to come and see the different animal species. That's a male giraffe over there. Now, Bob, welcome. Bob, you want to know how many types of giraffe are here. And the answer to that is we only have one species of giraffe here in the Masai Mara. It is a type of giraffe called a Maasai giraffe, and it is named after the local people of this area. So that's how many giraffe we have here in the Masai Mara, but the giraffe that James could find to you would be a different species of giraffe entirely. A southern African giraffe. So there's different species of giraffe all around throughout Africa. There we go, look at this. How cool is this? That is a male ostrich, and he has seen the female making her way towards him. And he's doing what to the female is a very, very attractive dance. Look at it go. Swaying backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. He looks a little bit silly, doesn't he? But for the female, that is basically like a man in a tuxedo dancing the tango. So she thinks he looks wonderful doing that. Oh, and he's even got his neck in on the act as well. You can see how flushed pink he is. Sitting Bull, you want to know if an ostrich will sit on its eggs. The answer is yes, and not just the female ostrich. Well, I see the elephants. We'll come back to those later. Not just the female ostrich, the male ostrich as well will also take responsibility for protecting his family. Look at him go. He's running towards the female. What does she think? Look at him trotting. Oh, he fell down. Oh, now we're doing the dance again. Very, very elegant. So Sitting Bull, ostriches, both the male and the female, will take responsibility for carrying their eggs. During the day, they will. The most important thing to do is to keep them cool and shaded from the hot Masai Mara sun. And of course, then at night, when the temperatures drop. Sorry, he's making me laugh terribly. When the temperatures drop, oh, there's the female. I didn't realize she was there. So there we go. He found his lady friend, and hopefully they'll be able to start a family soon. Michelle says that the ostrich has nice moves. Michelle, absolutely. That was very elegantly done, and he clearly won over the female. So that was It just goes to show you can learn all sorts of things from animals out here. Some of which, of course, would be the extraordinary ability to dance. And Jörg Seelan, you say John Travolta beat that. I'm not sure John Travolta has anything on those moves, and I think the lady over there might agree. Sandy from Greece. She was obviously well and truly won over. He was clearly quite happy to see her as well. So companionship is important in the wild. Here we've got a female and a male giraffe who are also courting. Oh, there we go. The ostrich needs a cool down stretch after those dance moves. So this is a really nice situation with these giraffes because you get a chance to see just how much bigger the male is to the female. So they're standing right next to each other, and sometimes it's difficult to see, but look here, look how much lower her shoulders are to his shoulders. Look how much smaller she is than him. That's something that we don't often get to see. There you go, look at that. Now she is probably an entire 2 feet shorter than he is. So she is much, much smaller than him. And generally what that means is that males will feed on leaves slightly higher in trees. Not always though, because as you just saw, the females and the males will also feed by bending their heads right down towards the ground. Now the reason that he's got such a long neck is not really so that he can eat leaves on the top of the tree. It's so that he can fight with other males and keep them away from the females. So he swings his powerful neck around and smacks the side of his rival. Usually it's quite a harmless fight between male giraffe, but they are very, very strong, and often the female doesn't particularly like the conflict. And if she can, she will try and walk away from him, just like this female is doing here. There we go, off to find more leaves to chew on. We always think of giraffe as leaning or stretching right up to feed off the leaves on the tops of trees. But they don't have to, as you can really clearly see. Ah, dragon, now. Let's say we hadn't been able to notice the size difference between the male and the female. Yes, both male and female giraffe have what you would think of as horns. Now, they're not horns, they are actually known as ossicones, and that seems like a silly, pedantic difference, but it's quite important because they're born with them, whereas antelope horns will actually grow once the baby has been born. In the case of the giraffe, they are born with them flat down against their heads. And then they start to rise up as the baby gets a little bit older, and then calcify and solidify into solid bone. Oh, she found herself a good twig there. But the male's ossicones are much, much thicker than that of the female. So there you go, you've got a nice comparison. You can see how much broader they are at the base of those, if you think of them as horns or ossicones. And then if you look at the top of the male's ossicones, you'll see that it has been rubbed smooth. Well, we say rubbed smooth. As they grow in the males and as they start to get larger, that bald patch sort of develops quite naturally. It's not necessarily just made by fighting. You'll also see that he's got quite a prominent bump between his eyes. Of course, as I said that, he turned away from us because that's just how things work. But he's got quite a prominent bump up between his eyes on his forehead. And that's also used as a weapon between male fighting a giraffe. And he's just going to keep following the lady. And wherever she goes, he will follow. You'll notice that he has a very hairy upper lip and lower lip, a moustache and a beard, and the female will have that as well. And the reason, of course, is so that they can feel their way when they're feeding in the bushes and they don't really want to eat the sticks or the twigs or the thorns, so they can feel where the bright green leaves are that they want to eat, and it stops them from injuring themselves. Now, there's lots and lots to see out here. Sometimes staying in one place is the best place to be, but sometimes it comes time to move on, which is exactly what James is doing across on Djuma. So let's go see where he's driving to.
We are coming up towards a waterhole, and it's quite warm here today. About 25 degrees Celsius or so, which I think is about, what's that, 72 odd Fahrenheit? No, it's more than that. It's about 80 Fahrenheit. Is it? Yes, about 80, just under. Call it 78. Oh, apparently it's 29 degrees out here. 85 Fahrenheit. I didn't realize that. Okay, so let's go and park on the top of this waterhole wall here and look across and see if we can spot a leopard, because there was a leopard seen in this area this morning. Now, when that happens, because it's been quite a warm day, you can be almost sure that the leopard will be around about in the same place in the afternoon, because they like to do a lot of sleeping during the day. Not always, but often. So let's drive around here, sit on top of this waterhole wall, and see if we can spot some spotty spots of the leopard. I'm pretty sure we'll be able to see a bird or two, even if we can't see a leopard. Right, so you're going to look at the screen, and I'm going to look through my binoculars. And we can hear the call of the Birchall starling. I can't see a leopard yet, though. And if you can't see it, often what you're going to try and do is hear if perhaps there are some squirrels or starlings, like the one you can hear there, making what we call an alarm call. And an alarm call is the sound that an animal makes when it is afraid. And so if a squirrel was to see a leopard, it would make an alarm call that sounds like this. But there are some other birds alarming, and those are called oxpeckers. They're having a big fight. There they are, they've landed on that tree there. It's not going to be the best picture because the sun's at the wrong angle. I'm not sure why they're fighting with each other. It is going towards the breeding season, which means all the birds are going to start making their nests fairly soon, and that means there's a lot of competition. Jocelyn, the rainy season will come probably sometime around November. Now, we did have a little bit of rain today. We were supposed to have a lot more. Apparently, we were supposed to have about an inch of rain today. We'd expect to have about an inch or two this month and an inch or two next month. But then we'd expect to have the really big storms come November. And until then, things will be pretty dry. But not so dry that the animals can't handle them. They are used to it being dry and hot here. Oh, and we've got a special little bird that Senzo's managed to spot. That is very special. And I'll tell you why it's very special. That, everybody, is known as a wood sandpiper. And a wood sandpiper has come all the way from the Palearctic region. That is the area around about Asia and Europe, around about that huge area that is Asia and Europe, and those birds have spent their summer your summer in the northern hemisphere there, and they've come back for our summer this side of the world. And that is a distance of probably, I don't know, what is it, about 10,000, 12,000 miles? Isn't that amazing? I think it's pretty amazing. Let me tell you exactly where it goes. We haven't seen one of those since last summer. So it comes from the Palearctic, yes. It goes all the way up to Asia and Europe, which I think is most impressive. Just trying to see if I can find exactly where it goes. Breeds all the way across from the forest tundras and taigers, from Iceland and Scotland across Eurasia to Kamchatka in Siberia. So they go very, very far north. The sorts of places that are freezing during the winter, but for a short time in the summer, they're very fertile, nice places for something like a wood sandpiper to live. And they do their breeding there. They don't breed this side of the world. Here they just visit us. They're on holiday here. Now, we have met Jamie, and now we're going to go across to a chap called Brent Leo Smith, and Brent Leo Smith's been sitting with the Great Migration all the way up in the Masai Mara.
Hello and welcome, guys. Great to have you on this afternoon safari. My name is Brent and I have my good friend Archie on camera, and we're next to the Mara River, and there's lots of wildlife here, and one of the scariest animals of all is on the opposite side of the river. Not the hippos, Archie, but the crocodile. There we go, you got him top right corner. There is a big Nile crocodile sitting on the bank sun tanning. And if you've ever watched Peter Pan, never smile at a crocodile. Now remember to get your parents to send us questions. We would love to hear from you. And then of course we've got the hippopotamuses in the river. Wonderful creatures they are. Oop, under the water they go. They spend most of their day snoozing about in the water, swimming and avoiding the hot African sun, and as it gets cooler they're going to head out of the water and go eat grass on the banks of the river. Now they can move incredible distances. In some areas they can move as far as 50 kilometers in a night to get grass. Of course in the Masai Mara where I am, they don't have to move that far at all. There's lots of lovely, lush grass around. Now, remember, this is live. Isn't that exciting? You're watching this at the exact same time as me. What else can we see? Oh, there's a baby crocodile. You see the baby crocodile? There's a little crocodile. But still, you should never smile, even at a little crocodile. And often there's some nice birds. I know James has been showing you a wood sandpiper. I'm trying to see. We often have some nice birds around the river. Oh, I see some birds moving over there. Let's go have a look if we can get a closer look at them. Look like some little canaries. Very pretty little yellow birds. Canaries. It looked like they landed in this croton bush. That's the name of this bush that's in front of me. That's it.
Hello everybody, sorry about that. We're still looking for our leopard here. We do have a number of technical difficulties with the Masai Mara at the moment, and I think that our leopard came somewhere along here today. So we're going to keep looking as we drive along this bumpy dirt road. I see where some cars were following her earlier this morning, so we're going to just keep our eyes peeled. The leopard is a very special animal to find. and they're very difficult to spot because, of course, they are very well camouflaged. Let's keep going along here. We're also looking for all the other kinds of animals as well. Anyway, we may try and find a tree if we cannot find a leopard for you just yet. Just want to try and cover some distance because we're not with you kids for very long, only about an hour. So we need to try and see if we can find this leopard. Not a lot of animals around here, which makes me think maybe there's a predator here. Now, as I was telling you, we are going towards the springtime, which means there are little signs of spring everywhere. A lot of trees have got buds on them, and what passes for flowers out here, sometimes the flowers out here don't really look like exuberant cherry blossoms like you might see in some parts of the world, but all of the trees here have to produce flowers, and sometimes they're very small, and a lot of them you will find at this time of the year. So if I can find some of those, we'll definitely show them to you. Now let's go down towards the south here. We'd also be looking in the tops of the trees for this leopard. They can climb really well. So let's carefully scour the landscape. Now, we had reports that there was a leopard around here this morning. Oh, I can't see a leopard, but what I can see are some impala. So let's have a look-see at them. There we are. Some impala over there. Beautiful antelope. And they are, of course, the most common antelope that we get over here, occurring in large herds. And those are females, and there's one male there with horns, and they occur at this time of the year in mixed groups. Sometimes of the year they really don't like each other very much. The males don't like each other, and so they fight. But at this time of the year, everyone's pretty friendly to everyone else. Oh, and there's a blackbird there called a fork-tailed drongo. He'll be looking for insects, and those insects will most likely be kicked up off the ground by the impala. So as the impala pick grass and bite bits of vegetation, so insects will fly up and fly away, and the fork-tailed drongo will swoop down and grab them. Glad I don't have to eat insects kicked up by impala. That wouldn't be very nice at all. And they're feeding around that big area there. And that big area that you can see with no grass on it is a termite mound. And termite mounds, although they're full of termites, are very nutritious. And that means that the soil is very nutritious, and that means that the grass that grows out of them is very nutritious. So you'll often find herbivores around termite mounds. Now, let's keep going along this road. I can hear a little bit of what we might call consternation, which is an alarm calling birds going chip, 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 chip. They might just be fighting with each other, or they may have seen a predator. So let's go along here and have a look. See what we can find. Look very carefully, because you could very easily drive past a camouflaged predator. All right, in the meantime, let's go across to Jamie. She does have some communications and an elephant, which is very exciting. And hopefully that elephant will be very entertaining.
Now, James is looking for something that is secretive and hard to spot. Now, believe it or not, these animals can be secretive and hard to spot at times as well. But luckily for us, They are right out in the open, enjoying the bright green grass of the swamp. So remember how I said that this was a good place to come and look for animals, because there's so many of them gathered around this green patch? Well, here you have it. There must be close on 50 or so elephants up ahead of me. I couldn't get any closer to them because there was an elephant in my way. And because this is their home and not necessarily mine, I always make sure that they are given the right of way, which makes absolute sense, surely. If we get to visit them in this natural habitat, we treat them with the utmost of respect. And of course, there is the fact that they are big and wild animals, so they should always be treated with respect no matter what. There's a lot of baby elephants in this particular herd, all sticking closer to their mothers if they're very young, or if they're slightly older, showing a few streaks of independence and spending a little bit of time away. Like this little chap, not too far away from Mum, but spending time learning to use that trunk of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to spend a little bit of time with these guys. Oh, look, another bird to add to your collection. We've seen lots of birds today. That is a black-bellied bustard. Very cute. The elephant, I mean, not the black-bellied bustard. Oh, sometimes you actually see little elephants chase birds away. It's a part of basically their learning experience. Now this looks like a little female. It is. It's a young female elephant, so she will be slightly less boisterous than a male, but not by much. Rocky, you say, wow, so green here. It is very green here. Look, the Masai Mara receives an enormous amount of rainfall every year. On average, around about or over 1,000 mils. This year in particular saw the highest levels of rainfall in the last 60 or so years. So it really does rain an immense amount out here. And for the animals, that is wonderful. It means a completely different type of ecosystem to the one that you will be seeing with James and Juma. You'll notice it's very dry, very brown. It's just coming out of the dry season. Here in the Masai Mara, the dry season is really only the month of July. And after that, and even then it rains. After that, there is plenty of rain to keep the grass nice and green. So for animals like the elephants or these playful topies behind them, and topi love to run, just purely for the sake of running, that is something that is very helpful for them. Our Mark, speaking about birds, migratory birds, all sorts of things, you wanting to know about those white specks behind the elephants, the white birds. The answer to that is that they are bald ibises, which we are seeing vast amounts of at the moment. There might also be some egrets around. I haven't seen any though. Those all look like ibises to me. I haven't seen any egrets, but you often see, look at these topi with their bobbing heads. You often see the egrets around the elephants and the antelope, and the reason for that is because they're insect eaters. So as the elephants move through an area, then they disturb the insects and the egrets can swoop in and grab them. But these ibises are living in the swampy area, even more swampy than where we are now, and they are probing the mud for any sort of invertebrate. They don't really rely on the elephants disturbing insects. They feed in a completely different way to the egrets. So I thought we might see some egrets around here. I don't see any though. I only see the ibis at the back. Beautiful topi. In the forest in the background, by the way, is the Great Mara River over there. So that's what you're looking at. That's why all those trees are there. let's go catch up with our elephants, because close encounters with elephants, particularly big herds like this, are really quite special and quite lovely. And the two males have moved off the road now, so we can go a little bit closer. And there's some tiny babies in this herd, so it'll be nice to spend time with them. You'll notice, of course, the animals are very relaxed with our presence, not at all concerned that we're here. And that's simply because they're accustomed to safari vehicles. They don't see them as a threat in any way. Now, we have a question. Oh, hold on. We could actually end up getting stuck trying to find these elephants. We have a question about what temperature it is here. At the moment, here in the Masai Mara, it is around about 25 or so degrees centigrade. So not far off 75 in Fahrenheit. The climate of Kenya and the Masai Mara in particular is really quite pleasant. It's very temperate. We're close to the equator, so the temperature doesn't change too much. But at the same time, we're quite high up, so it doesn't get too hot. So we get nice even temperatures. It's usually around mid-50s Fahrenheit in the mornings, and then this will be about as hot as it gets. It might go up to 86 or so if it's a really, really hot day, but that's unusual. Here we go. Now, Brenda would like to know if I've seen any baby animals today. And the answer to that is, well, we've got some baby elephants. This morning I saw some baby spotted hyenas belonging to a very special hyena known as Waffles. And a little bit later this afternoon, we are going to go and have a look at a jackal den, where yesterday we found tiny, tiny little puppies. So I'm hoping that they might come out. How beautiful is this scene? There's just elephants everywhere. They seem to have decided, though, that they're on a mission, marching off towards the sunset. Well, I say sunset. We're not quite there yet. It's only 5:15 in the afternoon here in the Masai Mara, so we've still got a little way before it gets dark. Oh, I see something very interesting. I'm sorry, I know we're looking at the elephants, and we will continue to look at the elephants, but we've been talking a lot about birds, and there's some fascinating birds. I'm going to move slightly because I don't think the camera can reach them. But down there is a very big bird known as a ground hornbill. Now that is a bird that might follow behind elephants because it does eat insects. So there we go. I think I can see 4 of them. They're far away, but still, oh, that's stunning. You can see the bright red color of the mature adults, and then the sort of yellowish facial color of an immature individual. And I'm sorry, it was the question about the temperature came from Olive. By the way, Olive, it is really quite nice and warm. I would say that if you ever do come to the Masai Mara, make sure you bring plenty of skincare products to help to protect your skin against the sun. Lots of hats, sunscreen, sunglasses, all of those sorts of things. There's buffalo in the background, there's elephants in the background, there's waterbuck over there. There's just so much for us to look at. There's the egrets. I knew they had to be somewhere. So those white birds over there are egrets, as well as some black-headed herons. That is to continue to answer Mark's question. Here's another waterbuck over there, lying up in the grass. And a topi. And a waterbuck. Now, Brenda, you wanted to know about baby animals. It is topi birthing season, so another reason why I've come this way is to hopefully have a chance to see what a baby topi, to show you what a baby topi looks like. I haven't seen any yet though. We're still searching carefully. There's a giraffe. Oh my goodness, there's lots and lots to look at. There is a topi antelope in its prime. It looks like she might actually be pregnant. Potentially. She's starting to bulge down at the belly. Beautiful. And as I said, there's the Mara River in the background. Now, before our elephants get too far away, although luckily they've decided to settle down, let's chat a little bit about elephants and their social structure, because what we've got here is a combination of a whole load of different herds that might be related to each other, they might not be. Elephants are not territorial. They are quite happy to wander around in large groups, in small groups, but there is one basic unit, and that is an elephant herd or breeding herd that is made up of females related to each other and their offspring. Now, if a female or if a baby elephant is a female, they will stay with their herd for the rest of their lives. But if it is a male, like those boisterous boys at the back who were fighting a little bit a moment ago, they will then get kicked out of the herd when they're about between 13 and 15 years old. It really depends on the individual. So for all baby elephants, this is the ideal environment to grow up in. They've got the protection of every single herd member around them. If there's any sort of a threat, the adult elephants will rush to the defense of their babies. But Tim, no, I don't think that this is one herd. A herd is really between about 10 and 20 individuals. Sometimes you get larger numbers, but that's really about as large as they get under normal circumstances. So this is probably several herds combined, as well as some big males and some slightly younger males who have joined in because they've seen all these females wandering along and they've come to investigate, and I think honestly just to have some company as well. I think that the male elephants quite enjoy the company of the herds. I'm not so certain that that feeling is reciprocated. Watching elephants use their trunks is a lesson in dexterity. Less so for the youngsters who are still practicing their coordination. They're not quite as good at scooping up the trunkfuls of grass that they want, and they have to be slightly more finicky about the whole process. Although these two have got an okay grasp, but you'll see how they're only really getting a few strands at a time. Not quite as practiced as the adults around them. It makes sense. Youngsters learning to use their trunks in the same way that toddlers might have to use their hands or learn to use their hands. Okay, as we continue scouring the swamp for exciting things, there's a big male at the back. James is still scouring Juma for a leopard, which admittedly is a little bit harder to find.
It's very hard to find a leopard, everybody, so now I'm going to show you one of the favourite things to see out here. Since was this too close? You can get it. This, everybody, is a little bit disgusting, but it's a very important part of the wilderness. It is hyena dung. Now, you would never touch this with your fingers, and that is because any carnivore, that's a meat eater, has dung that is quite possibly poisonous to human beings, so I would never touch it with my fingers. But what's very interesting is that you can see that it is two colours. Can you see that? One is a pale green colour, and the other is a white colour. Now, the pale green colour is what happens when a hyena's amazing digestive system digests bones. And it comes out greenish, and then it turns white in the sun, and that is because of the calcium that is in the dung. Now, I suppose you will learn about calcium probably when you're a little bit older than you are now, depending on how old you are. But calcium is a very important metal, actually, and it turns white when it is exposed to oxygen and it's exposed to light. So that's what's going on here. This hyena would have made his dung mark here as a marking of territory. Nothing really goes to waste out in the wilderness, and even dung is not considered waste. So this dung will be here so that other hyenas who do not belong to the Juma clan of hyena, they will know that this is not their area when they smell and see this hyena dung. Don't worry, it doesn't smell too bad at the moment, and that's because it's not very new. It's quite old. So there could be hyenas around here, but we're not finding a great deal at the moment, and sometimes in the wilderness it's difficult to find animals, and sometimes it's very easy, and this afternoon happens to be one of those afternoons where it's a little bit difficult. So let's keep going. Ruth, that's a very good question about mosquitoes. You say, do adults ever, or do animals ever get bitten by mosquitoes? The answer is yes. Do they ever get malaria? The answer is no. Malaria only affects human beings. I think it might affect some of our closest primate relatives, but I think it's actually only human beings. And the parasite called Plasmodium that causes the problem needs both the mosquito and the human being to survive. But it doesn't help having an impala around, it doesn't help having a kudu around or a leopard for the mosquito to bite. That doesn't help the Plasmodium, and so it really does have to be human beings. So animals don't get malaria, only human beings get malaria. Animals get all sorts of other diseases from various insects, but because they have lived here all of their history, in other words, they don't live in strange places like cities, they don't travel overseas, they don't go all over the place, you'll find that animals have developed the ability to deal with the diseases that occur in their areas probably much better than we as human beings have the ability to deal with diseases. Also, they don't live stressful lives like we do. Oh, now let's go back to the river with Brent and his crocodiles. I hope before the end of this drive we're going to be able to show you a leopard. We just hope.
It's always lovely here at the river. You never know what you're going to see next. At the moment, on the other bank, we've got a lovely herd of topi. Now, kids, remember, if you want to get your questions in quickly before the end of your special children's show, get your mom and dad to send them through to us. I would love to hear from you. Now, I love sitting at the river. Not only have we got lots of animals, we've got hippos, we've got crocodiles, we've got birds, and I just like the sound of the river through the rapids. So let's have a look what's around. We've got some big crocodiles on the other side, just lazing about. Now, crocodiles like to suntan because it warms up their body and it gives them more mobility. So early in the mornings, crocodiles are very slow at waking up. And we've got a lovely big herd of impala that will try avoid the crocodiles at all costs. Wait, actually, let's stick on the crocodiles. Let's look at their teeth. Look how big their teeth are. Isn't that scary? Isn't that amazing? Now, these crocodiles only eat properly for a few months of the year when the animals swim across the river, but for most of the year they'll just laze about. They will sometimes eat the big catfish that live in the river, but for the most part they rely on the wildebeest and zebra. And you've always got to check carefully around here. There's often lions waiting around these areas, and we've got a lovely big herd of impala up on the ridge. We've got a question from 18 Do the crocs go after the hippos? 18. No, not normally. The hippos are actually much bigger than the crocs, and a hippo has a very impressive set of teeth, and they can actually bite straight through a crocodile. A big hippo's lower canine can be as long as 60 centimeters, so almost the whole length of my arm. So I'll show you how big that is now. So a hippo's lower incisor can be that big, so it can go straight through a crocodile. So you've got to be careful of hippos as well as crocodiles. I'm just trying to check behind me what's going on, because you never know what could happen here at the river. As I said, there's often lions hiding in these bushes. We've got some more hippos downstream, more hippos upstream, and we're just looking for some birds. Okay, well, I'm going to keep sitting here at the river. While I do that, let's send you all the way back to James in South Africa.
Yes, here we are, and we've got some very special little birds over there. I wonder if you can see them there. They are called chagras. They're a kind of a shrike. Naturally, they're now flown away, so we can't see them. Oh, come on, jump up into the branches. Nasty birds. We haven't had much luck this afternoon, have we? There's one hopping around. That's not a chagra, that's called a rattling testicular. You can listen carefully, you can hear it going bzz, 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 bzz. Brenda, yes, I have been to Asia to see animals. I've seen tigers in Asia, and rhino, and Asian elephants, and this was all in India. I've also been to the far east of Russia to look for tigers, but I didn't see any there. That's quite nice. Beautiful birds. So it's not all about the big animals. Often just spending time listening to birds and looking at them is just as satisfying. Brenda, I don't own any pets, no, but my father and mother own pets, and I have owned pets as a child. I owned pets. My father has a dog. His name is Fenton. And my mother has a cat. I think I've forgotten the name of my mother's cat, because anybody who meets the cat only calls it Kitty. But I think its name is Zoe, as far as I remember. And the rattling testicular, looking for insects to eat, and often feeding with other birds that eat insects, especially a bird called the southern black tit, which you might find flying around here, going bzz, 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 bzz. Ooh, sends her quickly on the road. Look, it's a very special little carnivore, and that's called a dwarf mongoose. And if you listen very carefully and you watch its mouth, you can see it's making little squeaking noises. And it's gone. What a pity about that. Let's see if we can't find one last thing or two before we leave you. Maybe we'll be very lucky. We've only got about a minute left, I think. And then it will be the end of the kids' drive for another week. And we'll see you again next week. Oh, come on, we've only got 40 seconds left. Surely we can find you some other wonderful creature that we have out here. There are so many. Oh well, I suppose there is always next week. So I hope that you will join us next week. Same time, same place. On the Nat Geo Kids YouTube channel. And you might like to join us for our regular safaris every other day of the week on YouTube. You can just go to SafariLive. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next Saturday. Bye-bye. Hello everybody and welcome to the, well, slightly truncated Sunset Safari. Of course, many of you have probably been watching the Nat Geo Kids show, and that's very good. My name is James Hendry. Very good. And on camera is Senzo. Well done. And we are driving around Treehouse Waterhole looking for Tundi and Tlalamba. Tundi came up here apparently having eaten a duiker down south. I think the duiker, or the remains thereof, was stolen by Hosanna, and she came up here and was looking for Tlalamba again, the naughty little girl, and didn't find her. That was during the course of the morning drive. We didn't see her, and so we're going to do our best to see if we can't find either one or both of them this morning. I think it's time we spent some time with Tlalamba. Remember to ask us any questions you'd like to using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Otherwise, the YouTube chat stream will work just as well. I'm going to drive slowly once more around this block, and then I think I will probably go off on my foots and have a little look. As always, on Saturdays, I'm wearing my very special shorts. The shorts that created great consternation during the television show when they made an appearance. I'm not sure I'll be allowed to wear them again. And apparently we are struggling in the Mara with comms, and so all the communications are taking place on WhatsApp, which of course presents a number of technological difficulties. We will attempt to rectify that problem during the course of the afternoon, obviously. Oops. Doesn't want to fall out of the car while doing this. Then one goes from looking like one knows what one's doing to a complete idiot in less than a second. Yes, Foxhat, you're absolutely correct. We named Fenton after the dog who was caught on camera chasing deer in Richmond Park. If you haven't seen that clip, I would suggest very strongly that you go to YouTube and type in Fenton Richmond Park. It's F-E-N-T-O-N. You are sure to laugh yourself silly at the old man looking for his dog Fenton. It is very, very funny, and that is why my father's dog is called Fenton. My father can regularly be heard shouting, much like that old man in the video, on the beaches of Kenton-on-Sea where they live, as his dog hares after something and fails to come back when called. Right, Brentley Smith has been waiting to share the murderous Mara River with you all day long, and apparently it has been quite murderous today, so let's go across and find out just exactly what's going to be murdered.
Yes, now that we're finished with the kids, we are definitely at the murderous Mara River, and I'm waiting. There's some wildebeest congregating behind me, and I'm playing the patience game at Dusty Crossing. These crocodiles must be absolutely famished by now, not getting all the crossings that they used to. Some of the wildebeest are moving back around us, the others are going the other way. I'm just going to slide backwards a little bit. Oh no, I don't think we're going to get to see them from here. I don't want to move too much while they're moving around behind me. Now remember, this is 100% live, coming to you from the Masai Mara in Kenya. Now, with the crossings, it's always either a waiting game or a guessing game. Because who knows, there might be a crossing at the crossing you've just left and nothing happening at the crossing that you're sitting at. But that's the nature of the game out here. But it looks like the wildebeest have decided to move away from the river again, as per normal, up and down. There's some topi on the opposite bank. No sign of lions just yet. Doesn't mean they're not around, although I'm quite confident there are no lions around, since a troop of baboons walked through this area, and if there had been any, there would be much screaming. Some of the baboons are still on the edge of the riverbank up ahead. Where are they gone? There they are. Munching away on various vegetable matter and insects and meats if they get the chance. True omnivores, the olive baboon. Isn't that wonderful? Okay, now I can swing round to show you what's going on. So those are the wildebeest who looked like they were on their way here. They might still be. You can see heads are down, they're wandering about. And I've got a question from Jeffrey. Do lions prey on crocs? Occasionally, and crocs prey on lions occasionally, Jeffrey. It just depends on the circumstance. And Sheila is asking, are there no river cameras this year? There are, Sheila, but there just haven't been any crossings at them. So the majority of the crossings have been far down to the south, and we've had a few little zebra crossings. I mean, 5, 6. Taylor got a few crossings up here, but majority of the crossings have been down south. There has been no need for the massive herds of wildebeest and zebra to come up to the north of the Mara because there's so much food to the south. See, I think they might move around and then come back down behind us. So I'm definitely thinking that patience is key at the moment when it comes to what's going to happen next. The other thing is that while the park times are still open, I'm going to hang around here and then maybe we'll go check on old Scarface a little bit later once the vehicles have calmed down around him. Now, we've got a question from Say My Name Boy. What is the hierarchy of the baboons in the Mara? And that is very similar to the Chakma baboons of southern Africa. You will have two different hierarchies. You will have high-ranking males, probably 5 to 8 individuals who will rule the roost, and with lower rankers amongst them. And then the females have their own hierarchy as well. And a lot of low-ranking females will suck up to the highest high-ranking male to try gain a little bit of social standing. But that only works when the male's around. As soon as the male's gone, that social standing is over. Kathy in Ohio, do baboons swim? They do, but very reluctantly. They don't like swimming, but they can swim. Like most primates, they're not very good at it, but they do swim when they have to cross water points. Unlikely that they would find a need to cross the Mara River at the moment, or in this particular area. There are other areas where the river's more narrow and there's rocks, and they might be able to hop and skip and jump across. As I said, I think I keep an eye on these wildly beasts. They might go to Main South. This is the closest we've had wildebeest to the northern crossings this year. Well, since there were a few small crossings, but that was a while ago, a month and a half, 2 months ago. But since we've been coming down and checking here regularly, this is the closest we've had wildebeest to the main crossings. Okay, well, I'm going to continue my vigil at the Mara River. In the meantime, Jamie's got some elephants.
So Brent is continuing along the Mara River while we're actually much further upstream from where he is at a very large tributary that runs through the middle of the Samaki swamp. And it is one of my favorite areas in the Mara. It's half the reason that I'm back here, although I confess that as the day draws to a close, the first place we're going to be going to is to the jackal den. We discovered them yesterday afternoon. I don't think I said much coherent at all because I was just taken aback by jackal roughly the size of dwarf mongoose. And in fact, when I first saw them, I thought they were dwarf mongoose. So we're going to sit with these elephants because it's still way too hot and way too bright, I think, for those jackal to be out and about. I also don't want to draw any attention to them because they are quite close to the main road. So I'm going to wait until people start heading home, which is when we had them running about, very active, yesterday. The elephants, I'm so upset. I think we've just missed them having a bit of a swim, or at least a large portion of this herd. Most of them look darker in colour. They look a little bit damp, as if they've enjoyed a swim here, which we so seldom get to see in the Mara. Hence my disappointment. Oh, one's going into the water. I will reposition a little bit. I'm just waiting for some of the other vehicles to move out of my way. Yellow-billed storks. Oh, tangled with a bull, far too big for you, mister. On the right. I think he looks quite a lot larger. He was trying to ambush a much larger opponent while he came out, while he was at a disadvantage, moving up against the gradient of the rise of the river. It definitely didn't work to his advantage. Rosalind McConnell, you want to know how long an elephant's tail is? Do you know, I would say it's around about 1.5 meters or so. So what would that be, about 5 feet in length? And when I talk about the tail, I'm talking about from the base where it connects to the spine. So, you know, right up at the pelvis, all the way down to the tip of the tail. That is what I would consider the full tail. So about 1.5 meters or so for the fully grown elephants. Obviously, these youngsters will have much shorter tails. Not nearly as long. They've still got to grow into this whole adulting thing. Just in the same way that they've got slightly proportionally shorter trunks, so, or when they're born at least, so that they don't run and trip over them. Oh, Darlene, many times we have seen an elephant protecting her baby, and it is a phenomenal thing to watch, whether they are chasing away predators or if they are protecting their baby from the dangers of the environment around them. I'm sure those of you who could share the mother picking up the newborn calf when it fell down that hill. That would be an example of mom protecting her baby and then moving the stick out of the way so that the baby, wobbly on its legs, could walk. We've also seen a very interesting example of female behavior with, I think it was Benjamin Button's mother, Olympia, named by Gracie, who one day just decided, I don't know what the other elephant had done, but she decided she was not happy with it, and she stormed forward and shoved a probably about 6-7-year-old elephant over onto its side and pinned it down with her head and her trunk. It was really quite phenomenal to watch. I've seen a female elephant attack Brent before, trying to chase him away from her baby because we were trying to get them out of where they were, which was in the Garden of Inges, same place Osala likes to hang out. And we were trying to chase them out because they were actually about to pull a tree down on the roof during the drought, which wasn't exactly what we wanted. I don't know, I actually think we've got quite a nice view here. I was going to go across the Lugga, or the river. Oh. Hello, Kirsty. I have not heard your dulcet tones properly all drive, but it's wonderful to hear you. We've been communicating via other means. Bob, I've completely forgotten what your question was. I was so taken aback by Kirsty's voice. I assume it had something to do with babies' tusks. Oh, what age do they develop? Ah, there you go. Sorry, I was also distracted by the peculiar posture adopted by those two storks, who look as though they are meditating, quite honestly. Bob, I promise I'll answer your question. So, little baby elephants will have milk tusks, but it is only at around about 2.5-3 years old that you'll start to see the elephant's permanent tusks poking through their upper lip. So you can't accurately age an elephant by the growth of its tusks, but it does give you a rough idea. When you start to see the tips sticking out, you're looking at an elephant that's around about 3 years old. Of course, that doesn't always apply. You do get some elephants that are completely tuskless. What you doing? I think this little one... Oh, no, it's found a nice patch of grass. Thought for a second that it was going to go down into the water, which was what I was hoping. Oh, it's the one without the tail. Oh, Lara Moore, look, going back to our meditating storks who are obviously achieving the pinnacle of wisdom, except that guy. That guy calls them fools and has walked away. Those two call him a fool and tell him that he's turned his back on enlightenment. Sorry, our Lara Moore, you say they almost look like pelicans. They kind of do, don't they? I can see it. That tucked up, hunched back posture that they have currently adopted. Perhaps they're the yogis of the stork world. Inner peace and bodily flexibility and the ability to stay still for any period of time, something that has escaped me. I know what they're doing, of course. They're actually sunning themselves. Birds love a good sunning. A nice time spent with their wings stretched out, warming up their muscles in the sun. They absolutely love it. By the way, it was extraordinary to see those two ostriches mate and his full display. Just to go back to that, I was really very excited to see that, because I don't think we've actually had that on camera before. But I was exceptionally... yes, exactly. I mean, not mating. Obviously, there's no mating. No mating happened behind that termite mound. And the fact that it was the best placed termite mound / bush combination in all the world has nothing to do with that fact. Because, of course, you know, we are all delivered by storks like these ones that have achieved enlightenment. That's actually what they're doing. They're contemplating retiring from their job as baby deliverers. They've heard that the ostriches, little ones, have to be on their way. Just finding out if they're up to the challenge. Oh, look at this young elephant. You're going to chase the birdies away now. Why? Because you can. Purely because you can. So while we enjoy ourselves here in the swamps of the Masai Mara, let us go across to James, who apparently has sped up slightly.
Yes, I have sped up quite slightly because, of course, I heard some impala shouting around about this region over here while I was walking on my feet looking for Thandi and Charamba, neither of whom I found. Nor did I find any twacks for them, but I did hear impalas shouting, I thought around about here. Difficult to pinpoint exactly where, but I think it was somewhere here. They were definitely shouting at a predator. Whether that predator has managed to predate on one of them or not, I'm not sure. Tiamat, does a leopard ever get ready to go independent? I mean, I think she's becoming more and more independent. You know, she spends less and less time with her mother, listens to her less and less, explores more widely. They're the impala, or there are some impala. There are two of them. Neither of them look like they are particularly panicked with their existence. Let's just have a quick listen. So, I mean, yes, if you wanted to be facetious about it, I suppose you could say they start getting ready for independence from the day they're born. But is that process accelerating now for Tlalamba? Yes, I think it is. Is it early? No, probably not. It is quite early, though. But well, you might find that she just hangs around Thandi like this for another year or so. And in fact, it's entirely possible that she could hang around and not be territorial while Thandi has another cub. So that's also possible. I think, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but my impression is that she is more independent than other cubs I've known. There's a Steinbock there. While I talk to Aubrey, go ahead. I'm just talking to Aubrey on the radio quickly. Yeah, I'm not sure, Orbs. I was standing at the termite mound where we had Tandi the other day, where she was looking for Tlalamba. It sounded like sort of between Zoe's Junction, Philemon's cut line, and we're a little bit north of that, somewhere in the block there. That's a little Steenbok. Also doesn't look nearly panicked enough to have seen a leopard. But you are being very confiding, and we thank you for it, because most of your kind run away before we've had a time to appreciate them. Thank you very much. Well done. Still standing there, licking its lips, looking at the sun, which is very pleasant to see. I don't see any twacks on the road. No, Kalina, we don't think so. We think Hosanna has continued down towards the south, which, well, while it's a little bit sad, I suppose, is inevitable. There is a southern black tit, Senzo. Southern black tit is now gone. Never mind. You got him there. Yes, that's also quite a nice view of a southern black tit. Right, let's quickly keep going along here. See if we don't get very lucky. This is around about where I thought I heard them. Anyway, I'm not having much luck at the moment, so I think the time has come to head across to the Marcy Mara again, where Brent Smith remains at the murderous Mara River, hoping for some mayhem, death and destruction.
Welcome back. Now, those baboons we saw a little bit earlier have started alarm calling on the opposite bank. We're just trying to make sure that they are not alarm calling at something on our side. I'm just looking very carefully. So the baboons are just down there. Now they're alarm calling something in this area. Christoph is wondering, do Mara baboons have special places to hide at night? Christoph, they sleep in the trees, like all good primates. It's their safety zone. Okay, can't see anything from here. Let's have a look from a bit further forward. So they're alarming right in here somewhere. And see some Thompson's gazelles on the other side. They don't look too perturbed, which means it's probably lions. Whether or not we're going to be able to spot them from here, where underneath, what's that underneath the shepherd's tree in the distance there? Is that a lion? No, it's in Polalas. Okay. Baboons, what have you seen? Whatever it is, I can't see it. I'm going to go have a look. There's lions elsewhere. Okay, well, I go ahead and look for some big cats. Let's send you across to Jamie, who's got some playful elephants.
I haven't even thought about lions today. Well, actually, that's a lie. I did at the start of the drive. I thought about finding that pride that we saw last night. But then I got completely distracted, and you can really see why. Been a beautiful afternoon spent in the company of elephants. These are two young males having a bit of a wrestling match. Careful. I feel like a real adult when I want to say to them, please be careful of your eyes. And poke each other's eyes out. No. They can actually injure each other. Injury. Oh my goodness. Let's try that sentence all again, shall we? They can actually injure each other. Oh, flop. Look how sharp our tusks are. Look what we could do to the ground with our big scary tusks. Especially you on the left. You're really going to make that dent in there. Veritable pitchfork, you are. Might have bitten off more than you can chew here. The one on the right is much larger. So I said they can injure each other. It's unlikely though. Most of the time they are relatively gentle in their... Oh, he got my ear. He's got my ear, Mum. Mum, he pulled my ear. Oh, pressing home an advantage there. Trying to force the other one's head down. Here's one of the ways in which they get holes in their ears, or rips or tears. They also can puncture each other's skin, although it's unlikely. The skin of an elephant is so tough, and they're not really battling with a full strength. Pushing and shoving. Test of endurance, really, more than it is power. Actually, you know what it is? A young elephant bullfight like this is a test of attention span. At one point or another, one of them is going to get tired, and as much as the other will desperately try and encourage his playmate to continue the game, it just won't happen. Tracy, you say that this is so lovely to watch. I'm glad. I love sitting with elephants. I'm just really happy to do it while we're here in the swamp, and while I'm waiting for the sun to descend slightly so that we can go and visit our jackal, which we'll do in the next soon. I just realized how much darker it got with the clouds. We'll do in the next soon. The next 15 minutes or so I'll leave and I'll go to the jackal. I will, of course, leave the coordinates of the jackal den to the other guides who are coming up to the Mara. Are we done, boys? Nope. Now you see, the one on the left knows he's got the advantage here. Not even the advantage, I mean, he's just a clear victor. He's so much larger, both physically and in terms of his tusk size. Oh, careful each other's eyes, boys. Mom is going to come and put you in a timeout. Then there'll be tears. Oh, is this a run-up? Or is this no, this is a run-up. No, oh no, we're pitchforking the ground again. Oh yes, clever tactic. Almost worked. Sneaky, I like it. Make up for your small size. That's clever. Most animals will, I mean, all jokes aside, most animals will actually, with horns or tusks, will stab the ground and thrash the ground for some reason. It appears to be very intimidating to their opponents. Impala do it. Topi, Nyala, Kudu will all coat their horns in mud, and the same goes for fighting male elephants. So they're acting on quite an ancient instinct there. Oh, down we go again. Plump. I'm going to make you eat mud. If you're not careful, you're going to fall over. We've seen Daryl do this before. Hey, look at that, covered in mud. We've seen Daryl do this before. Before attempting to intimidate us. In the past, Daryl, for those of you that don't know, is an elephant that we occasionally see on Juma. He coats his tusks with mud to look more intimidating. It's exactly what this youngster's doing. All he's going to do, though, is get mud in his friend's eye. Probably a cousin. Not necessarily, though. Uh-oh. Are we done? I'm not scared of you. I just heard my mom calling me. I'm not running away. My mom wants me. I don't have any choice. I have to go. And we go back to feeding. Now it's all embarrassed. The one that's run away. I mean, not run away, the one whose mom called it. Here it goes. Lindsay, yes, to an extent there are differences with the elephant behavior in the Mara and in Djuma. There he goes. Tail between his legs. Literally. Well, I suppose he's an elephant whose tail doesn't have anywhere else to be. In terms of behavioral distance, the biggest difference is feeding, obviously. You very seldom see elephants feeding on trees out here. They don't need to. There's just so much good quality grass that why bother? Why bother chewing on an old twig and getting the bark off, which requires immense amounts of effort when, oh, that's so pretty, when you could just eat the grass. Otherwise, I've found their behavior to be very similar. The herds, the way they interact with each other. The only thing that I've really enjoyed about the Mara, and I suppose can't really necessarily be transposed to Djuma, is in the Mara you can see really far away. So you can hear a herd rumble and watch a herd 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers away react to that rumble and respond to it. And that I've really enjoyed. It's one of my favorite aspects of being out here, is you see a larger pattern to the behavior of the animals, because it all ties together. Manu, that is stunning. Reflection of the clouds. Beautiful. I would say let's sit and listen quietly to the elephants feeding, but we can't, unfortunately, because there are people talking next to us. Hence why I'm not allowing you that moment of peace, because otherwise all we'll do is eavesdrop on their conversation. Stunning. But Manu hasn't seen the jackal puppies. Oof, Lev. Being deaf as a wild animal is not necessarily, and obviously it's a massive disadvantage to these animals. You probably would find that you could have a deaf elephant because of the nature of their society, the way in which they look after each other, and perhaps something big like a deaf rhino or a deaf hippo. But even then, it will be very, very rare, because these animals are so reliant on their sense of hearing that it just results in predation almost immediately, because it might be the last to run, the last to respond to alarm calls. Look, I mean, they still have their eyesight, so they will be responding. Oh, Manu, I'm sorry, I know the sky is beautiful there, but the little baby's out in the open, and it's just adorable. Tiny, tiny little weeny thing. Oh. No, Mom, don't hide your baby from us. Been trying to get that baby, or to try and capture a moment when that baby was out in the open for ages, and now, of course, as I've said that, someone goes and walks in front of it. Deaf dogs, of course, and cats, domestic dogs and cats, you will get, because we look after them as human beings. But it's hard to imagine a deaf topee or Thompson's gazelle surviving for very long. Certainly not long enough to propagate the gene. Well, if that's the sort of deafness that we're talking about. Could also be an injury. Oh, little one. Please come and say hello. We would so love to meet you. Oh, it's a really small baby. Speaking of really small babies, we've got to go to these jackals shortly, because the rain is starting to advance upon us. So we're going to leave our elephants and head across there. Let's go and see what Mr. Leo Smith is up to.
Well, we're on the edge of the migration with one of those marvellous Mara views. There's topies chasing each other in the background, wildebeest and zebra dotting the plains, and some of those magic Mara rays about to break through the cloud. The one thing you can say for the Masai Mara is that the light here and some of the skies you get are absolutely spectacular. As well as the 1.7 million wildebeest and a couple of 100,000 zebras and Thompson's and gazelles that come around once a year. But the light is here all year round. Now, there's still a lot of cars around Scar face, so we're not going to go there just yet, but we will go there in not too long. Just enjoy this magnificent Mara view for the moment. Plenty of food around for Scar if he ever stood up. He's probably the laziest lion I've ever seen. Lets everyone else do the hunting for him. Just comes in later and snacks. Throws his weight about. Wonderfully peaceful, isn't it? Just take a moment to listen. Yeah, the wildies closest to us. Ooh, well, I'm going to wait to head towards Mr. Scarface, but in the meantime, let me introduce you to Trishala, who's on interview back at Juma.
Hello everybody, I am Trishala and I'm on an interview drive. Very exciting, very excited to be here. We're going to have a look at what we can see today, though it's been quite sparse to be very honest, but I'm interested in the little things, so let's see what we can find. We have seen a couple mongoose running about. We've seen a couple of starlings running about, well, flying about, lots of birds around, but we're looking for those elusive leopards and we haven't been able to find them, unfortunately. But we'll keep looking. Of course, there's heaps of impala, as always. Let's see if we can see some of them as well. What do we have here? Nothing exciting. So this is my interview drive. Of course, yes, I'm nervous, so be kind, everybody. Ooh. What do we have here? Let's have a look through this bush. Oh, hello. Can we get a good look at you? Oh, there's two of you. Beauties, they're just here grazing. Hello, pretty lady. I've got some of those red-billed oxpeckers on them. Now, these oxpeckers, their role is to actually clean these parasites off these animals, and that you'll actually find during the mating season, the males have so many ticks and other insects and parasites on them that they would get heaps of these oxpeckers on them to clean that out. And that's because they neglect their grooming regime, which is very important for these animals. They neglect that during their mating season. So that's when the oxpeckers have their fun. Look at them eating away. Yep, and there's another one. Oh, I don't know if that's tasty. Look at them go. Shall we see what else we can find? Conrad, those kudu's ears, well, absolutely stunning if it were a kudu. Yeah, a female kudu, if I'm correct. They're absolutely stunning. And they're huge because they need to be able to hear for predators. And if they can't do that, they can't get away. They also need to be able to hear the calls, distress calls and other calls from other kudus in the area. Hi Kirsty, I am from Durban in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. So you see Senzo and I are representing KZN today. Yeah, I'm from KZN and I studied in KZN. And I've always really loved animals. And I think I was made for the wild. But yeah, always loved being in the wild. Always love to see how everything interacts with each other. Like to see the way they influence the environment, the way trees influence the environment, the way elephants influence the environment. There's just so much. Yeah. And that's why I'm here from sunny Durban. Alex, I studied environmental science. It was a great course. I loved it because it's exactly what I appreciate about the wild. The way everything integrates the ecology, that's exactly what I got to learn. And then I also got to learn the practical side of it. And this is just the way to apply everything that I've learned through my university years. Is there anything else we can look for quickly? Oh, look what we have here. James, I'm not exactly a birder, but that doesn't mean I won't be one. Oh, hello, you beautiful thing. This is one of my favorites. It's a glossy starling. Now, look at the color. The color is actually quite dark and not very iridescent that you're used to. And that's because the coloration in a glossy starling is not caused by pigment whatsoever. In fact, the only pigment that's in, or the only color that's in its feathers is actually from melanin. The blue hues and the purple and green hues that you see is actually caused by a structural difference in the layers of the wing. Oh, there he goes. Of course, there he goes. And it's these reflections that cause the color, which I think is absolutely fantastic. So there's no pigment whatsoever. It's just the structure of the structures on the bird that create a refracting in the light that make the different colors. So you'll see that in different light they may appear different actually. Anyway, let's see what else. Thank you so much, Bo. I appreciate that. I do. I must say it feels natural, and I do love it. Aaron, my favorite animal to spend time with. Well, to spend time with, that would be a dog, because don't really get to spend time with these animals, unfortunately, in that kind of way. But my favorite animal out here in the wild is also a tough one. I can't have a favorite, you know, I love them all for their own reasons. But one that particularly is close to my heart is a honey badger. And I like it because it reminds me of me. It's small, it's ferocious when it needs to be, and it knows what it wants. It has no time for some lion irritating it. It's got no time for some snake's venom. So yeah, that would be my favorite. Okay, so I think that is my little trial. Nice to meet you all. I heard you're all fantastic. Please keep commenting, please keep asking questions. And I think we're gonna link up to Jamie again
It's always such a terrifying thing, that interview process, that live interview. It's just, it is a complete, it blows your mind, essentially. So I'm sure you all, and I know you always are, always so welcoming and kind to our new interviewees, because as I said, it is a terrifying process. Right, I'm driving unnecessarily fast, but I feel like it's necessarily fast because the light is golden and the day is cool and the rain is coming, and I really feel like all the stars are going to align and give us those jackal pups again. I really hope so. I really want Manu to see them. Okay, we're not far now. Normally I'd stop and show you that pretty bridge, but I'm not going to. Or those buffalo, but I'm not going to show you those either. You can look at them as we drive past them in the sun. Manu, watch your eyes. It's these little acid monsters. Ugh. I don't know what these bugs are, but they secrete some sort of acid that burns your skin, and I'm sure it's what happened to Manu's, I'm just watching the road, I'm sure it's what happened to Manu's eye. And they've covered my shoulder in little itchy acid burns. I don't know if it's acid, I don't know if it's alkali, it's something. Okay, we're getting close. Watch out, little spur fowl. It's fine, flew away. Okay. They're here, they're here, they're here, they're here. No, those are mongoose. This time, that's actually mongoose. There was a lot more than 5. Oh, mongoose could actually be quite dangerous to jackal pups. Hold on, I'm just going to go slowly. Trying to orientate myself, trying to work out exactly where I am in relation. The jackal den's just up ahead. The mongoose have just come running out this way. I got so overexcited. Okay, quick look at the mongoose, because they're so pretty and backlit, and they're looking at the jackal, I think. Out of my mouth, bug. There they go. Okay, come, let's go see if the jackal are there. Look, 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 look. In the road in front of us. There's the 2 adults. Hi guys. Don't worry. There were 2 adults keeping very close eye on that with those mongoose. Remember when we saw the jackal being attacked by the banded mongoose? Come, let's go a bit closer. Pretty sure they'll let us. These jackals here are quite relaxed because they're on a main road, so they're used to vehicles. We'll just go nice and slowly. Remember how we saw those banded mongoose attacking the jackal? You know, I wouldn't be surprised if they could be a threat to jackal pups. I'm sure they must be. Luckily, we've got this oh so subtle wheel squeak. The adults are moving off, not because of us though. I think they're moving off after the mongoose. Let's just stop. So Manu, just to give you an idea, that hole there is where the pups live. And the adults are now looking at the mongoose moving through the grass. Okay, we're gonna sit quietly. Do you see them? Hey, babies. Manu's so used to looking at things in dens, hey Manu? Hi. You are utterly adorable. I'm going to take a sneaky picture of you. Just 1. Okay, just 2. 3. Okay, I'll stop now. How adorable are these little creatures? Okay, the adults haven't gone far, so So we just sit nice and quietly. Oh, hello, Kirst. I would suggest we don't invite a larger audience on yet. Not until we know whether or not we're actually going to see them out of the den. I'm actually not comfortable or terribly comfortable with... I was going to say where we are. Maybe we're okay. Let's just see. I don't want to move the vehicle around too much either. Hello, puppy. Obviously the last thing we want to do is in any way jeopardize their safety or their feelings of security. And honestly, what I think I'm going to do, because they... Oh, here comes the thunderstorm. Because they're looking in our direction, I'm just going to shift our angle slightly to... Oh, look! Look at these guys. Sorry. I'll keep an eye on the puppies. But... mongoose have also seen something, possibly another jackal I can't see. I've seen these banded mongoose on this termite mound before. Okay. I am going to turn around. It's okay, these pups are used to vehicles, so this is where they've chosen, this is where the jackals have chosen to den. But what I'm going to do is just move so that the first thing that they see when they stick their heads out of the den isn't me. I don't think that's terribly fair on them. So we'll go to where we were yesterday. The adults are fine with us, you can see them, they're quite relaxed. It doesn't give us the best view, not as good as where we were, but I feel a bit more comfortable about it if we sit here quietly. And then we just sit and play a waiting game. And wait and wonder if the little pups are going to come out. The adults, I think, will be coming back shortly. I really wanted to stay yesterday. There were so many vehicles driving up and down that I started to feel just a bit too much in the way of a distraction. But let's see how we get on tonight, because I can see both the parents here. I think the parents just came to investigate the mongoose, and now they've settled down. Bo, the pups are at this point, I don't know exactly how old they are. I think that they're about 4 or 5 weeks old. Jackal pups come out of the den at around about 3 weeks old. So the one thing about pups like this is that they will wean very, not wean completely, they'll still be suckling now, but they will wean completely quite quickly. So in the next, I would say, 3 weeks or so, so when they're about 2 months old, they'll be weaned. Much like puppies. Puppies, not quite 2 months old, but are weaned a lot earlier than, say, for example, something like a spotted hyena that goes on to suckle from mom for an extended period of time. James, it's an interesting one. You want to know how long the older siblings will stay at the den, and yesterday we had what I suspect to be a babysitter. Excuse me. I think they'll stay for pretty much all of the time that the adults are away. So if that means all day, I suspect that they will stay all day. Or until the adults come back with food. Hello. Hello, gorgeous. Are you utterly adorable? And in fact, there could well be a babysitter here now. We just don't know about it. Oh, so adorable. You can see why I moved where I did. The way that they come out, we weren't the first thing that they looked at. How beautiful is that little face? Oh, and then James, the older siblings could stay for the raising of one generation, sometimes even more. But that's unlikely. It's usually for just one generation of the next set of offspring. I'm trying to think of how to give you an idea of what size these pups are. They're smaller than Chihuahuas at this point. They really are small. They're smaller than those banded mongoose that we saw. They are absolutely minute. I could, and I'm not a very big person, I'm pretty certain I could hold one of them in my hand. Might stick out over the edges slightly. A little bit nervous. That's not us, that's just being alert to the world around them. I'm pretty sure I could fit one of them into the palm of my hand. They really are small. And curious, apparently. Kathy, you want to know how many pups there are? Yesterday I counted 5. There could easily be more than that. I mean, Jackal can have more than 5 pups. 8, 9 pups would not be unheard of. But yesterday we only saw 5, and I suspect that's all that there was, or all that's in this den. I'm hoping we get to count all 5 of them coming out again in a little bit. It's just the tips of their ears. It's probably very similar to a hyena den in that it probably has quite a large entrance and then immediately sort of constricts into smaller tunnels that would help to keep jackal pups safe. Kelsics, they are indeed smaller than the wafflets. They are about the same size as the wafflets when we first saw the wafflets, I think. I mean, they're minute. They really are. They're about the size, fraction bigger than a dwarf mongoose. Keep looking behind me to see if the adults are going to come back. Don't see them. So yes, the wafflets are at this point bigger than the jackal pups. Do you agree, Manu?
Yep.
Yeah. Come, little jackal pups. I want a picture before I go. Please. I think this is probably what I'm going to do for the rest of the evening, by the way. I'm probably going to sit here. I can see one of the adults not far from here. Once it starts to get completely dark, then we will depart. Okay, we're going to sit patiently and wait to see what happens. Let's go across to Trishala, who apparently is with the animal that I compared these jackal pups to.
Hello and welcome back. So we've just found some lovely dwarf mongoose. They are chilling in their little burrow. What they tend to do is go and live in the termite mounds that are now abandoned, and they live in these little holes and they pop themselves out. What I love about them is they are also quite ferocious. They are carnivores, they're predators, they hunt, but they hunt for things like insects and other small invertebrates. They tend to be in little groups, but I suppose they actually can go up to big groups of about 30. most common, I think, are groups of 12 to about 13. They have about 3 little poppets at a time, and they're absolutely cute. The cutest things you'll see. They're like, if you imagine cute rats. Big cute rats. And look at them peering at us. Hello. Are you concerned about us? We're not going to hurt you. Oh, and what is that you hear? Yep. Do you think we could coax them out? I don't think so. I think they're fairly comfortable. They look like they're just watching us. Oh, hello. Are you coming to visit? Is this your home as well? Yeah, they look like they're just on the watch, making sure that we're not here to disrupt them and disturb them. Otherwise, they'll be scurrying off very quickly. I think we better move on and give them some time. Jerry, mongoose can eat snakes, but very small ones. We've also got to consider the fact that they are small animals, and they can't really take on something too big because they can get swallowed themselves. So when there are little snakes around and they have the opportunity to take one on, they most definitely will. Get back inside, he says. I like this guy with his butt sticking out. Hello. I think we can move on down and see what else we can find. If you're wondering how nice it is to drive around the bush in your big van, it's excellent. I love it. I'd advise any one of you guys to come down here, visit this kind of game reserve and experience it for yourself. Didn't get that? Oh. We are gonna connect to Brent now. See what he's got for us. Oh.
Well, we're with the legendary Scarface of the Mara and every biting midge in the world. So the biting midges of the rainy season are out. So there he is. He is up, which is a miracle. Normally, Scar does his best impression of grass all day. Now, he's with 2 McGraw lionesses that are behind us, and I'm sure he's hoping that they are the ones that are going to provide him some dinner.
Sorry about that, everyone. Apparently, Brent had some problems with his audio. Unfortunately, it is starting to rain here. Makes me wish I came to these little jackal pups a little bit earlier, because I think soon we're going to have to batten down the hatches. I also think the rain is going to keep them tucked away with their small size. The wind as well has also really picked up. It's bringing the storm in our direction. I think we're going to escape the worst of it, but that might be being somewhat optimistic. But let's wait it out. We're going to wait it out for a little bit longer. It's still light enough that we can keep an eye on what's going on in their den without running the risk of distracting them too much. There we go, there's a babysitter to the left. There we go, or an adult actually, it could be one of the adults, the parents. I keep calling the babysitters are adults too, they're fully mature. Hello, it's okay, it's alright. Here comes number 2. Okay, you can see perfectly content in our presence. It's a little bit different to sitting with hyenas that have been researched for 10 years. They're not necessarily as comfortable with us. So we're giving them a much greater distance. I'm looking to see if I can see any lactation. Oh, this is so cool. Are you going to call them out? Such an odd place for a den, right on the road. Look at those massive ears. Jackal really never grow into their ears, do they? No? Oh, there, I saw a head. I saw a head, briefly. Come on, Jackal. It's going to go lie down, away from the den. Jackal do habituate quite quickly, though, to the presence of people. And we saw that with the jackal cubs. Oh, jackal cubs. Oh, there's a head. I think they're going to come out, maybe. Come on, come say hello. Come say hello. I'm hoping that wasn't. I don't think that was because of us. They were so relaxed with us yesterday. But this individual's not 100% keen. We'll start the process really slowly. We'll give it another few minutes just to see if they're comfortable to come out like they were yesterday. I'm no closer than I was. If not, then we'll probably leave them, because we don't want to be in a position where we keep them from coming out and feeding. One adult is, I think the parent is perfectly relaxed off to the right side of the den. It's not in any way bothered by our presence. I'm hoping that the pups will take their cue from it. It's also the wind that's probably going to make them more nervous. I'll keep a watch on the den. We're going to sit and wait as the jackal makes sure that it's safer to bring their pups out. Let's go back to the most famous lion probably in the Masai Mara. Oh, of course.
Well, we are still with the legendary Scar. Sorry about us losing our audio then. And he's got 3 Mogoro ladies with him. No sign of any other musketeers. Looks like he's hogging them all to himself. There we go, that's 2 there. There's another 3rd off to the left, but he's smelling where they've urinated. We might get a phlegm and grimace from the old man. And he truly is an old man. Not only in years, but in lion terms, the battles, the wars, the cubs he's sired. You just better hope he doesn't get caught by all these new boys that are running about. Right, he's going to flop down. Okay, let's move around so we can get a better view of him. It's nice to actually see him up and about. Normally, he's doing a very good impression of grass. Just want to not to drive too close. And let's go around this tree so we don't disturb them. Get a good frontal view of Scarface of the Mara. There we go. Whoop. That is magic with the setting sun behind him. Wind picking up, giving him a bit of a perm. Oh, there's a rainstorm behind us. That's where the wind's picking up from. Didn't notice that till now. Getting a bit nippy. I'm just going to pop my jacket on quickly. Archie's also doing the same. Give us a second. Sorry, folks. Oh, there we go. That's a bit better. A bit warmer. Now, the ladies don't look like they're the most well-fed. He looks okay. There are lots of wildebeest close by. Proper old man of leisure at the moment, hanging out with the young girls. They're testing the air, sniffing what's about, and behind them there's a lot of wildebeest, and off to the left of them actually. Okay. You can see not too far off herds of gnus. Oh, he's going to give us a roar. There we go. That's the female closest to us. Okay, well, we're going to wait here to see if they do give us a lovely roar. In the meantime, let's send you across to James.
Oh, I'm saying och because the bird just flew away. But what they were doing, it's a fork-tailed drongo, nothing unusual about that. You've seen 7 million of them. But they were trying desperately to imitate the pearl-spotted owl. I was hoping it would do it again. It's trying various birds. It just did a rattling testicular there. Let me shut up for a second. You can hear a rattling testicular calling. There, it's doing it. There now. Listen. Can you hear it? Trying to do the pearl-spotted owl. There we go. It's responding to me now when I do it. There we go. Now it's not, naturally. There's doing it again. So like I've said to you, they're not particularly good mimics. It's quite fun to try and figure out what they're trying to do. He was doing a little rattling testicular when we arrived. Lots of rattling testiculars actually calling all around him. He's got a bit of a bedraggled tail, this chap. Anyway, we gave up around Treehouse Dam. We didn't have any luck there, as you saw, and so we're going towards Buffelshoek Dam now, and we'll see what we can find over there. Maybe Tingana's lurking there, maybe just a barren landscape, but we'll have lots to talk about as we go. Nancy, the reason that birds mimic each other, we think, are twofold. There are two reasons. The first is most well illustrated by the robins. The robins are generally very good mimics, And it would seem that the more birds a male robin can mimic, the more likely he is to find a mate, and the more likely he is therefore to produce offspring. So there's an evolutionary pressure towards making as many calls as possible. How it should have started, well, I'm not really sure, but it's perhaps started for the second reason that birds mimic. We think to make their territories sound full, or make their territories sound like there are lots of other birds, and therefore keep other birds away and perhaps help them to get more food than they might have otherwise. Those are the two main reasons we think that birds mimic other birds. I haven't read anything particularly new on mimicry of late, so there might be some latest research on it, but those are the two reasons that I've always learnt. Oh my goodness gracious me, it would seem that the most famous lion in the world is now, stuck in a rather nasty weather pattern.
The most famous lion is getting wet. And I think we're probably going to get wet quite soon, unless we drop our covers. The storm has suddenly just hit us. Oh, dearie me, this is not fun. Let me just try and move the car a little bit. I'll just try to stop some of the water coming in. There, I think we got our back as most as we can to it. But I think we're not going to last too long before... No, here it comes. Yeah. Okay, we're going to go back to James. We'll try to keep the front open, but we do need to close the sides to protect the equipment. So back to Commander Bond.
Well, closing the sides from the inside is not very easy in those cars. Anyway, I hope they get them down quickly before they get wet and get themselves nice and snug inside the tent of the cars. As I say to you quite frequently, it's a very happy memory of mine, being inside, secure from the rain, drinking coffee, reading a good book. Not for too long, mind. They're not the most comfortable, but still. So we are going towards Bivelshoek Waterhole. We'll see what we can find over there. As I say, not a great deal on offer this afternoon. The radio is deathly quiet. It's still on. Many of the Bivelshoek landowners are around at the moment, and they seem to be gathering somewhere for a drink, which is nice. They didn't invite me though. Jamie and Brent have now both kind of out of commission. Jamie's powered down because of the lightning, and Brent, of course, is now frantically trying to tie the sides of his car down with a wet Scarface watching him, no doubt. Scarface has seen quite a lot in his days in the Masai Mara. Maybe he's really quite sure how old he is. I thought he was about 10 when I met him about 2 and a bit years ago. But he looks exactly the same as he did when I saw him 2 years ago. He might be 58. No, he's not 58. They don't live that long. Maybe we will see some nocturnal creatures tonight. This was actually, we've got Trishala on the back of the car, obviously. She didn't just disappear. She is on the back of the car. This is round about where Sebastian and I had that magnificent sighting of the honey badgers not too long ago. Well, one honey badger. And we watched him for about 40 minutes. It was fantastic. Right, now because we haven't found anything else, we're going to stop at these impala. Oh yes, Anna-Marie, the vulture chick is absolutely fine. I did see him today, and he's absolutely fine. He, might be a she. Mum is still there, looking after him or her. We'll never know whether it's a him or her, and so, you know, you're welcome to decide for yourselves and pick a name if you like. My name is going to be Veronica. I think Veronica's a wonderful name for a vulture. Kirsten gives me the tick of approval. I've grudgingly admitted that Scoobert is a much better name for our lapwing than Leslie. Apparently Scoobert is on the dam cam as we speak. He's starred, old Scoobert, over the last few days. These impala, you can see, are looking a little bit mothy, and that's because it has been wet today. They have been rained upon. We probably had about 2 millimeters of rain today. Conrad, in the final control, who of course is our engineer, is saying that it's time Scoobert went to bed because it's getting late. Yes, I agree with you, Conrad. I think you should tell his parents that they should dispense with their modern notions of letting children stay up until they get tired and then go to bed. A thorough thrashing and into bed with the vegetables for supper. Fantastic. All of you are agreeing that we're going to call the vulture chick Veronica. Oh, that's great. And that way, if we ever do find out that it's a male, which is impossible, we could just call him Ronnie. Veronica the vulture. Auvergne. Yes, Auvergne. Ronnie Auvergne. Well done. Thank you, Kirsten. Now, I was having a discussion with Herbert the other day, and we were discussing colour blindness. And, of course, the great misconception is that predators are completely colourblind, which they are not, of course. But they don't see very well in colour, and they don't see red. And as we go into summer, what's going to become increasingly obvious, especially to those of you who might be new viewers, is that although those impala are very well camouflaged as they are in this kind of vegetation, as soon as everything goes green behind them, they look rather obvious. And that is to us, with our ability to see in all three colours, red, blue and green. The major predators of impala, lions, leopards, cheetah to a certain extent here, hyenas, and of course wild dogs, are colourblind in so much as they don't have red cones in their eyes. So they're unable to see the colour red. And what I think that means is that because everything is in shades of blue and green for them, seeing an impala against a completely green background and in amongst green vegetation is actually very difficult for them. So although they're pretty well camouflaged now, to us in summer they really stick out. Senzo, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but 7,000 mosquitoes appear to have hitched a ride with us today. So while I attack them viciously with whatever is at my disposal, let us go back across to Brent Leo Smith, who has the sides down, but at least the sides, yes, down, the front open, and the eye light.
Well, we are a little bit damp, but mostly dry. Just the presenter is getting wet at the moment. And you can see the rain dripping from it. We've just managed to keep the front open for now. We are going to have to close it if the rain keeps up like this, because it is starting to leak in. Scarface does not look impressed. His magnificent mane is going to be mopey. Probably needed a wash. He had quite an impressive dread underneath. He really doesn't look impressed with life. Oh, here it comes. It's getting harder as well. Miserable Scar and one of the ladies trying to look for wildebeest. And even if they go hunting now, unfortunately for us, we can't follow them in this weather. So it's coming in over here, and it is getting harder, so we might actually have to close up the front shortly. But let's try and get one last look at the lions for now. Okay, I think we're going to have to close up. It's starting to rain too hard. Oh wait, let's wait. Scarface is up. What is he going to do? Hop, hop, hop out of frame. So while Scarface hops out of frame looking very miserable in the rain, let's send you back to James Hendry.
Yes, back to James Hendry, and we are not really have much more to tell you than we have, but we continue our search desperately for anything that might be of entertainment value. It's this time of the day that it is beholden on me to reiterate that you can talk to us using the hashtag SafariLive or the chat stream on YouTube. Send us your questions and your comments and your discussion points about conservation, Africa, no religion or politics, please, on Drive. Science, if you want. I think it's highly likely that a hippo will return to Buffelshoek Dam when the rain returns and the dam fills up a little bit. Whether it will be our old pal Scuba Steve, the most boring hippopotamus in all the world, well, that's anyone's guess. I wonder if we'd recognise him. Do you think we would? I'm not sure. He certainly was massive. But hippos are not known for being small. I haven't been here for a while. Let's pop up onto the dam wall and see what we have the other side. A couple of starlings flying around the place. A lot of mud now beginning to be exposed here in Buffelshoek Waterhole. Some thickneys, water thickneys. Oh, and Senzo, look what we have at the other end there. Can you see? We've got the world's worst parents. We're going to go to the infrared, everybody. There we go. There is one half of the world's worst parents. The Egyptian geese of Buffelshoek Dam, who have lost, oh, I don't know, in excess of 30 chicks since I've been here. In case, again, you're a new viewer, they were doing so well last time. They had 7 beautiful little things. They don't have chicks, they have goslings, don't they? And the goslings would swim every day all the way across, and they'd swim amongst or around Scuba Steve, and Scuba would tolerate them. And there were birds that tried to prey on them here. Marabou storks came down, the geese chased them away, and I thought, finally, they've learned how to look after their babies. Well, blow me down if they didn't then decide to take them on a, well, roughly 2.5 kilometre route march to where Scubert currently lives. That's about 2.5 k's away. How they got there, no one knows. The goslings couldn't fly yet. They all got there, believe it or not, and not one of them made it back. So why on earth these geese decided that a 5 kilometre route march for a 3-week-old gosling was a good idea is anyone's guess. But it is unsurprising to me that so far their genetic legacy is not extensive. In fact, it doesn't exist. And so as far as Darwin is concerned, they're an absolute failure. A little bit like myself, in fact. Well, no, I've never had children and route marched them. I've just never had children. Right, Senzo, I think that we have milked this dam for all that it is going to give us, so we are going to go to the end of the dam wall, turn around and come back the way. Thank you, Cayenne. You like the duct tape patch on my back there? Yes, it is was necessary because I was attacked by a Sisyphus bush that threatened to leak out all of the feathers in this jacket. Tristan, who has a black jacket, in fact has very, very little, he's got very little actual jacket left, but because his is black, you can't see how much gaffer tape is on it. Marge, yes, not a bad idea. Maybe we should get a white pen and write the SafariLive logo on it. It certainly would look slightly less offensive than it does now. I'm not sure that this jacket will see another season. It has done 2 seasons, which I think is pretty good out here. It's not the most robust of things, but it fits into a tiny little bag. That's very convenient. Are there nocturnal birds that migrate, Debbie? Yes, there are. The nightjars, quite a few of the nightjars migrate, the most obvious one being the European nightjar. They definitely migrate all the way to Europe. Whether they fly at night or not, I'm not sure. I guess they must do. They must fly at night. They probably navigate with the stars. There are quite a few birds that are able to navigate at night. I think the swallows fly. Swallows fly at night? No, swallows fly during the day. And then they land at night. I would so love to stick a little camera on one of those Wahlberg's eagles and see what they see on their traverses and where they go and what they do. There's a bit of a mystery as to what exactly happens to them when they go to the north. I mean, I don't think it's particularly mysterious, but nobody really knows exactly where they are. And I think it's because the amount of ornithology being conducted in areas north of Central Africa and places like Chad, the Sudan, where else would it be? I guess northern Nigeria, Mauritania quite possibly. You know, you don't want to spend too much time in those places at the moment in rural areas looking at birds. They tend to be rather riddled with civil strife. So I suspect when young ornithologists graduate from university, when somebody says, "Oh well, would you like to go off to Mauritania perhaps to study where the Wahlberg's eagle goes, or study the red bishop bird in Pietermaritzburg?" I think many of them say, "Oh yeah, I think I'll go with the red bishop bird in Pietermaritzburg. It's all the same." I'm sure there are the odd intrepid one would go to Mauritania. Oh, old bird, what a lovely question about animal kills and which ones I find the hardest to watch. You know what, let me tell you, the first animal I think, is this the first animal that I saw die? I'm not sure. It's the first one that sticks in my mind. It was a little woodpecker, a cardinal woodpecker, and when I was training to be a ranger at Ngala Private Game Reserve, they had a little conference room where nobody ever went, so I used to go and do my studying in there because it was nice and quiet and it had a lovely deck, looked over the Mopani forest, and I really enjoyed it in there. And one day I was sitting studying away, I forget what it was, I probably forgot what it was straight afterwards, and there was a thwack against the sliding door window, and I quickly looked outside, and there was this little woodpecker, and it was stunned, and I picked it up in my hands, and it went through its kind of death rattle, if you like. It kind of looked at me like this, and then it shook a little bit, and then it was very obviously dead after that. I think it must have snapped its neck, and then something killed it. Oh, well, I mean, its broken neck killed it, obviously. Anyway, it didn't die quickly. And I remember being profoundly affected by that, and I think I may have even shed a tear. And I don't like watching kills, I must say. I find that I find the strategy employed and all of that, and the actual thrill of the chase and that sort of thing, really interesting and fascinating and very exciting to watch. But once the actual capture has taken place, I find it very difficult. And I think one of the most difficult ones I ever watched was a buffalo with the Nkuhuma Pride here. It was in the middle of the day, and in fact we all went out to look at the lions, and we found them killing, and they killed a buffalo, and we watched it suffer for, I don't know, must have been a good half hour, with the lions just not making any effort to put it out of its misery. They had kind of immobilized it and suffocated it to the extent that it could no longer move, but it still kept trying, and it gave these dreadful sucking noises as it tried to breathe. And I guess possibly its its trachea were punctured, so it couldn't get enough air into its lungs, and it was going, and it was horrible. It was really just dreadful. So I didn't enjoy that at all. And I'm trying to think, I saw something else die the other day. We saw a squirrel being caught by a Hosanna, but he caught it very quickly and killed it very quickly, and that wasn't too sad, I didn't find. But I seem to remember being very thrilled by watching whatever it was. And then I wish I could remember what it was. But I was very thrilled by the chase of what happened. And then as this animal took its prey, I forget exactly who it was or when, I just felt very sad. I think it was actually when Tandi caught that almost adult Nyala bull. And I felt sorry for him because he didn't have any friends with him to help him out. And there he was, trying to make his way to adulthood in the wilderness. And this cat leapt on him and snuffed his life out. And I mean, why shouldn't she? There's the bunny. Paula, I missed your comment. I'm sorry. Can we have it again? Yes, absolutely, Paula. Watching baby animals die is awful. And we watched Hosanna, of course, eating a baby duiker the other day, not too long ago. And that was fairly, I guess, not disturbing. Well, I guess maybe to some people it was disturbing. Watching those lions kill wildebeest during the migration is disturbing, because they kill and they don't eat. It's wanton killing. Isn't this little thing wonderful? Look at his little nose twitching. Hosanna ate one of him yesterday. I'm just going to turn those lights off. Now, I've told you before that hares have got back and front legs, sorry Senzo, that are similar sizes. But this one's definitely got much longer back legs than front legs. What he's eating there are the rhizomes, so he's trying to get to the base of the grasses where there are nutrients stored underground. It's a really nice little hare sighting, actually. Good. There he is, Senzo, you got him again. So I think he knows he's being watched, so he's disappeared into a nice little thicket. Well done. Well, let's hope we can keep finding a leopard. I suppose watching killing is a little bit like, I mean, we wouldn't, when we look back on Roman times and gladiatorial contests, we think, well, what barbarians, who would want to go and watch people die? And yet we are slightly fascinated by it when it comes to animals. Not because we like to see death, I don't think, but we're excited by the, you know, the predator-prey interaction and that sort of thing. And yeah, for me it's quite interesting in the human psyche, and I think many people, most people actually, are fascinated by the concept of seeing a kill live until they actually do see it. And then it becomes very difficult for them. And it's one of the reasons that on most of these documentaries, you will see, on many documentaries, a lot of the really good ones, you will see the chase, you'll see the takedown, and that'll be it. You might then see the animals eating a bit later. But you will very seldom watch the life be snuffed out of an animal in a documentary, because a lot of people, me included, find that just too disturbing. And you don't actually realize that that's what you're watching. So you watch a kill in a documentary, you see this amazing stalk, then you see a chase, and you see the takedown, and then you see the animal feeding, and you think, God, wouldn't that be amazing to watch live? Then you come out here and you watch the Nkuhuma Pride stalking, and you think this is amazing, and then they chase a buffalo, and you think, oh, this is unbelievable. And they leap on that buffalo, And suddenly there's a whole lot between when they leap on it and when they're feeding on it. And it's that bit in between that you then watch and think to yourself, you know, I'm not sure I'd like to see this again, because there's an extreme amount of pain and terror that goes through the prey. And I guess we just don't like that very much. Anyway, that's my take on death and animals out here. Still no Masai Mara, I'm afraid. You're stuck with me, waffling away in the darkness. If we find an animal, well then we can talk about that. Senzo, what do you want to see? Nothing. Nothing. Sorry, Dinsdale, say that again. I missed it. I was remonstrating with Senzo. Absolutely, Dinsdale, I agree with you. You can't praise an animal for its... Well, you probably can, but whether it's logical or not, I don't know. You say you can't praise an animal for its beauty one day and then say how it survives is revolting. I would agree with you, and I'm not for a minute suggesting that what the predators do out here is revolting in the slightest. They are doing precisely what they should be doing. They're playing a valuable role in the ecology. They're just doing what they were designed to do. I'm just saying that it's quite difficult to watch animals die, to watch a being not be a being anymore. There is a hyena in front of us, which is very nice. Don't go anywhere. Stay on the road. We're coming to see you. And apparently there's one on the dam cam. If that hyena at the dam cam has a go at Scoobert, it's going to be in deep trouble. Hello, Mies. Having a good listen. And a smell. The wind has dropped pretty much completely at the moment. That's really nice to see. I think so many people say that as a result of watching Safari Live, their impression of hyenas has changed completely. And really they are the most fascinating animals. Looks like a young, or looks like a male to me, but our hyena experts, believe it or not, will probably be able to identify that hyena just from what we've shown you so far. Don't want it to frighten it, so I'm just going to drive very slowly behind it. It's on its way somewhere, not sure where. Quite possibly to have a drink at the Jumadam Pan. Best it stays clear of Scoobert. It'll be in big trouble if it gets hold of Scoobert. And it's also been very interesting, I think, to see the difference between how the hyenas here move and the hyenas in the Mara move. Here, obviously, they are often alone. You got him there. Foraging, just like this one is. And if they find something to kill, or they find a kill, they'll whoop and screech and others will come running. Whereas in the Mara, they're often in 2s or 3s or 4s. And the only time we find that here really is when we find them at a den. I wish we still had a den site. It would be so great. Okay, on we go. Oh my goodness, Jamie's managed to power up again. She is looking at lightning in the distance, which is quite exciting. So I think we should go across to her in about 10 seconds, I suppose. We'll see if she's had her coffee and read her book.
We were indeed looking at lightning in the distance. Unfortunately, as soon as we tried to show it to you... Oh, we can hear it though. So we apologize. There you go. For disappearing off your screens for as long as we did. Obviously we had to abandon the jackal den. and race for safety. The lightning was unfortunately too close for us to stay powered up. Now it's a lot further away, so we can actually almost work out exactly how much further away. The next rumble of thunder should come shortly after that lightning bolt. That, by the way, is Angama on top of the hill, and that loose flappy piece of string was not meant to be in there. It belongs to my rain cover. So it's that much more encouraging when you hear that sort of a distance between the flash of lightning and the rumble of the thunder. It's far less comforting when the crash and bang happen at exactly the same time or a split second after the lightning. That's when I start to run for the hills. I have a very healthy respect for the power of lightning and the power of the weather out here. And where lightning is concerned, I would almost say it borders on slight fear. Actually, not even slight fear. I'm afraid of lightning. I'm sure I've told many of you the story of when I was younger. 4 girls from my school were killed in a lightning strike. Paula, you say this is like the inside of your eyelids. It is so dark. It is indeed dark, for it is night in the Masai Mara. Fortunately, I will light up the night with my bright spotlight. I don't know if you get flashes of lightning on the inside of your eyelids, Paula, like you do if you rub it too hard, if you rub your eye too hard when it's closed. Sorry, Kirst, what was that? No idea what you said. Forgot to turn you up. Squeak, 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 squeak. Natalie, yes, we do indeed get bats here. We get little insect-eating bats that flap around. We've struggled to get them on camera. Where was I with Brent that we saw a bat land in a tree recently? I mean, that sounds like the lamest story ever, and I don't think it's going to get any cooler, because I don't think I can remember where we were. I have absolutely no idea where we were, actually. Where were we? Not a clue, but yes, we do get lots of different species of bat here. We see them less often, I feel, than we do in South Africa. But immediately bats here make me think of poor Rebecca's panic when we came back from Uganda. We'd been climbing into all sorts of caves and there'd been large numbers of bats flapping around our head. And when we got back to Kenya from Uganda, we went through the temperature scanner, came out the other side, and it turned out there'd been a Marburg virus outbreak in a different part of Uganda. And poor Rebecca read that it was spread by bats and went into instant panic attack mode, convinced that she was going to come down with Marburgs, which, shame, I mean, it was fair enough. It turned out it was a different species of bat, entirely different family of bats that was the carrier of that particular disease. But fortunately, we were all Marburg free. It was an entirely different part of the country as well, and Uganda's quite a big country. But bats are little vectors of disease. Unfortunately, rabies and all sorts of other things. You should never go and pick up a bat, ever, no matter how cute they look, and I think they look quite cute. And as a child, I used to, unbeknownst to many, pick up any bat that I found and catch it in my hands. Now, in hindsight, very glad none of them ever bit me. Also incredibly surprised that none of them ever bit me. Is the storm bouncing back? It is. 6, it's unusual for animals to get struck by lightning, but it does happen. And it probably happens more frequently than we might expect it to. In fact, not so long ago on Djuma, that poor Dacre met an unfortunate end due to lightning strike and was discovered the next day on bushwalk, if I remember correctly. Giraffe tend to fall victim to it quite regularly, especially in open areas such as this, or perhaps in, for example, Bloemfontein in the high veld of South Africa, where there are serious thunderstorms. I know of a reserve that lost almost its entire giraffe population to lightning strikes because it was just high, flat, no cover, and the giraffe stuck out like a sore thumb, so to speak. There's usually all sorts of things on this road. I'm not finding one. They're all hiding from the storm, which is going to bounce back off the escarpment. So it does happen. Elephants, giraffe, antelope. I once happened upon a very grisly scene of 10 or so dead impala, or dead antelope, and that had obviously taken shelter under a tree, and the lightning had hit the tree and killed all of them. It looked like a really horrible murder scene. It was really creepy, actually. And for us, we get a little bit freaked out about lightning because we have antennas on the back of our vehicles. So once the lightning comes, we put our heads down and run for the hills. Fortunately, we don't have to do that. We can keep looking for things to show you, which is exactly what James has been doing on Djuma.
Well, not much, but Senzo and I have been discussing death and watching death and the things that we don't like to see. And he said that for him the most painful thing to watch, or difficult thing to watch, was when a cheetah brought a half-dead, I think it was Thompson's gazelle, back to her youngsters. And that was last year in the Mara, I think, Senzo. And he watched the youngsters toy with it and then eventually kill it. And he said that was very difficult to watch. Yeah, I agree, it is tough. Yeah, it's a tough old world out there. Ah, Lisa, the happiest, most uplifting sighting. Well, I guess it's always really babies. It's cubs, isn't it? Seeing cubs survive. Seeing things like Hosanna come back here after he went away for a little while. And then he came back. I'm trying to think of the most uplifting thing I've ever seen. Wild dog puppies in their dens. The zebra birth, that was very uplifting. Yes, thank you, Kirsten. I'm trying to think, you know... Sorry, I missed that one. She's singing in my ear now. What? Oh. Apparently I shouldn't mind some poor joke. What else? I think that the most uplifting things are the things that are most unexpected. When something you think is dead isn't dead and it survives. I'm trying to think of an example. I find seeing Tingana uplifting. I find the fact that he's an old boy. In fact, that's the most uplifting thing I've seen for a long time. Was Tingana's recovery from his illness. When everybody thought he was dead and gone, they certainly didn't wish him that he was dead and gone, but there was a lot of thought that he was finished. That he is not going to ever recover and come back to retain his dukedom. And then he did. He managed to escape it. He very cleverly stuck around Chitwa camp. And eventually he just got better. And I found that tremendously uplifting. Yes, that's going to be my answer to that question. Yes, Miss Anomandrus, when the Nkuhumas were separated and were reunited, any reuniting is wonderful, isn't it? Especially when there are cubs involved again, when they're little ones and you think, oh, these things have been forsaken. I mean, watching Tlalamba and Thandi reuniting is always very uplifting, especially because Tlalamba puts her through the ringer every time she tries to call her. It's also uplifting. Something not very uplifting, I suppose, is the change that has occurred with our Wahlberg's eagle. Mrs. Wahlberg has returned with a new lover. What happened to Mr. Wahlberg is the mystery. Was he just tossed out of the house? Perhaps he wasn't innocent in all this. Perhaps he too has found himself someone else. Difficult to believe, given that, well, maybe he did. And maybe she kicked him out the house. That is possible, of course. Maybe he was killed in a storm en route here. She just moved on very quickly. Very sad to see that he's not with her, though, I must say. I am guessing, of course, that the chocolate one that she's arrived back with is the male. Yeah, absolutely. UK expat. I do remember the first time that we saw Sindile, the young male leopard, nephew to Thandi, and when he caught a rabid dog, he was then taken and put in quarantine for 4 months, and they reintroduced him here. And when we saw him the first time, the internet nearly exploded. There were tears in all of our eyes. It was just great. We don't know where he's gone. We hope that he's alive. It would be totally normal that he would have dispersed from here, but let's hope he's fine. That was very uplifting. Good one. Hope we have lots more uplifting. I mean, there's obviously a 44, you say when I give a lecture on hippophysical traits or adaptations, that's quite uplifting. Well, thank you very much. I'm assuming you mean when I draw such things. I suppose most things out here are, on balance, more uplifting than not. There's a white-tailed mongoose. First one I've seen in about 6 decades. Don't run behind that bush, please. Just stay there. Well done. Oh, hooray. On balance, most things must be uplifting out here, or people wouldn't keep watching. I'm not going to repeat what Brentley Smith just said, because he made me swear on drive by giving me a fright in the bush. He said that was his most uplifting moment. Mine was when he was caught saying exactly the same thing about 2 seconds later. Hello. I don't know if any of you caught Brentley Smith watching these 2 white-tailed mongoose there in the Masai Mara mating. It was the most hilarious thing to see. Just funny, because he looked completely clueless, shy, terrified, while she just carried on foraging. Seen this guy's tracks all over quarantine clearings. About every single morning we come out on walk, and very seldom see him on the way home, and here he is now. Could be a she, of course. And of course these chaps will definitely eat snakes if they can find them, and we're now into sort of snake time. So let's hope he gets himself a nice big snake for dinner. Let's hope the snake doesn't suffer at all. All right, everybody, that is going to be the end of this sunset safari from the Mara and Juma. Thank you very much for your kind comments and questions to Trishala. And we will see you tomorrow, of course, at 05:30. I'll be on foot. There'll be 2 of us on vehicle in the Mara. Until then, have a great evening. Bye-bye.